Hi everyone, it's Linda Canase with LyndaCreates, and this week's project is so much fun. I decided to use the embroidery flower stamp from Stampers Anonymous from Tim Holtz, and I wanted to show how I took this stamp, stamped it onto fabric, and embroidered it to make this fun floral project. But there's a lot of different techniques I'm going to show you in this video. How to stamp it, how to stretch your fabric, how to add, can you see the color, the light color wash in the background? How to add that color to your fabric, and then how to stitch this. So come along with me and I'll show you how I did this. So in honor of Stamptember, I decided to do one of my Stitch Your Stamps project. And I discovered that Tim Holtz has come out with a stamp called Embroidery, which is very ironic since Stitch Your Stamps is about doing embroidery on your stamps. So I thought, to honor the project and the month, I will try using the embroidery stamp from Stampers Anonymous and stamp a project, stitch it onto fabric, and see what I get. So I'm using an upcycled wooden stretcher bar base. It came off of a stretched piece of canvas for craft painting, and I just took the canvas off, but it's a perfect size. I'm using archival ink, which is I've been finding is great for stamping on fabric, stamp platform, some embroidery floss, and the main thing I'm using is 100% cotton. It's a lovely weave, so I'm going to use that. I'm going to stretch it out over my stretcher bars, wrap it around, and then I'm going to stitch. Oh, and these are the colors I chose. I should explain too. Let me get in a little bit. I am going to do this design. This is a wild rose image, and I love wild roses, so I decided to use that. And since wild roses are generally pink, I selected these colors to stitch with, and I'll put the colors down in my description to let you know what I chose. So let me go ahead, trim out my fabric, and start. I decided on an area of the background, the napkin that I'm using. I ironed it, but you could still see some wrinkles in there. Once it's stretched, it will work out a lot better. I'm giving plenty of seam allowance around it. What I'm going to do first is the stamp design itself comes with these numbers, and I don't know, can you see that? I don't want to print it when I print on my fabric, so I am putting a little piece of washi tape over it. Now you can, if you don't think you'll ever use it, you can cut it off, but I'm leaving it on there, and when I ink it up, I can remove that piece. Now here's the other thing too. Because the piece is too large to use in my stamping platform, I'm going to gently, in some areas, outline where it's going on my fabric. Now I don't want to do too much because I'm going to have to erase it, so I don't want to have to erase too much. So I can remove my frame, and now I'm going to and I need to remember, if I restamp it, I need to cover up the number again because I don't want that to show up. I'll just erase. So that's step one. I am going to give it 3.5-inch border all the way around. It's a very generous border, but I wanted to do it so that I can wrap it and clean it up later. Don't want to cut the label off. And I'm not a professional embroiderer, so this is the way that I want to do it, just to have fun. My whole crafting idea is, if I'm having fun, then I'm doing it right. So after you cut off, save these scraps. The set that this napkin came in had several more napkins in it, so I will use it for other projects. But these scraps are great for, you could use it for other projects, but also for testing anything that you might be doing with this. So I'm going to use it to test some colors, and I just want to see how that works. So I'd rather test it on this than on this. So let me set up for the next part. So here's something I've been wanting to try with this scrap fabric. We'll see how it works. I'm going to use alcohol ink on fabric and see what happens. And I'm using the alcohol blending solution. I have no idea how this is going to work, so we'll see. So I'm not sure which color I'm going to use. So I'm putting 3 drops of each, which is a lot of color, but we'll see. And I'm going to try 2 different ways. One, I'm going to try, and again, it evaporates quickly, so you want to work fast. I'm going to put some alcohol down on here. I'm going to see what happens when I put, probably should wet my brush first. So I'm trying that color. What was that? That was stone washed. This is way too dark. Oh, I like how it's coming out real softly. But let me try one more thing. This is my favorite color is Stream. And I don't know how this will look for what I need to do. No, that's a little too green for what I want. I think it's going to be stone washed. Oh, look at the colors on my hand. Hold on. Okay, that's better. Gloves. So now that I've done that, you can see it's drying up on my palette. So you want to add, what I would suggest is a drop of alcohol here. So you definitely want to moisten down your fabric first. How about if I mix the colors a little bit? And I'm mixing it just like I would watercolors. I like the technique. I'm going to play with this a little bit more to make sure I have the technique down, and then I'll come back and we'll work on the project. I've been experimenting with this. What I did was I put 3 drops of stone washed and 1 drop of Stream down in a pool here, so I had enough that I could finish a project. That basically you want to mix your colors in a big enough batch so you don't have to mix it in between. And then I added quite a bit of alcohol blending solution to water it down. I want it really, really soft. So here's what I got. This was when I first laid it down, much too heavy for what I wanted. Watered it down more, and finally when I got it down to a very, very pale, soft color. Now, again, I put alcohol down first. It will get these edges at the edge of where the alcohol will end. So if you put down enough, you won't get the hard edges and it'll dry. And it seems to be drying clear. So that gives me enough to start on what I want to do on the project. First thing I want to do is make sure I don't have any ink down here and my hands are clean. And I will lay my project down here. So here we go. Okay, just in case, I'm laying a piece of plastic down underneath my palette, and I have protection for my desk. And first thing I'm going to do, I have lots of paper towels here, is I'm going to clean off my brush. So I just put some alcohol ink, or I keep calling it ink, alcohol blending solution off on here. I think it's easier, yes. I shall do it like that. You can see it is affecting the ink. So I didn't anticipate it bleeding into or disturbing the color of the stamp. So that is a little bit of a problem. I think a little more control. I'm doing this very slowly because I want just a bit of color to come out. And with the ink spreading as I go, a bit of a problem. But again, this is an experiment, and I have to say, I'm quite pleased how the alcohol ink is taking to the fabric. I'm not necessarily pleased that it has diluted the ink that I stamped, but like I said, this is an experiment, and I will show you how it turns out. And I'm not going to go too far. I want to definitely not touch the ink if you can help it. Okay, learned a lesson there. Do not hold your bottle of blending solution on top of your project. I'm going to stop right there. So what I learned is that the ink works great on this fabric. And this is 100% cotton. It's a very tight weave for napkin. The alcohol, it does not like archival ink, or maybe it likes it too much. It just wants to bleed everywhere. But it also takes just a small dab of color. In my case, I just wanted to do a slight watercolor look. Let me play with it a little bit more. I want to test a little bit more on my scrap fabric, so let me play a little bit more. So now that I've cleaned off the surface and I've let this dry, you can see that the stamped part got messy. I'm not sure. I can clean up some that are in the stamped area. I may need to add a little extra leaves in those areas, like up here where the archival ink touched the alcohol. But you can see how Otherwise, the soft watercolor effect that I got for the background before I stitch. So the next thing I want to do is mount it to my frame. Now, there's several ways to do this, and I do have the fabric way too large for what I need, but let me show you first what I'm going to do. I have a regular household staple. Definitely could be tighter than that. So I realized that I did way more fabric than I needed. Okay, so what I'm going to do first, I did one staple there, and I just want to tack it in place. Okay, so just, and you want to do enough because you're going to pull pretty hard on it. So I'm just kind of working my way across, and be aware that if all else fails, you can always take the staples out. So again, you want to pull really, really tight. You want to also do the vertical, but now watch the direction that your threads are going, that you're not pulling it too hard in any angular direction. Okay, so I now have the bottom. Now I've been playing with the corners a little bit. What you want to do is come up the corner piece goes across, and then you want to make as clean a corner fold as possible. So that's what I want the corners to look like. A little bit cleaner would be better, but that's what I'm going for. So, and then what I'll do is I will go in here in areas like this and fill in more staples as needed, but I want to leave the corners open so that I can do this fold first. Okay, so I have it all stapled and tucked under nice and neat. The only thing I want to do now is all this extra fabric can be trimmed away now that it's secured in place. So I'm just going to do that. Now you can see what we're going to stitch on.